One, two, three. Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the Joe and Cole versus the World podcast discussing Eraserhead. This is Joe.
And I'm Cole. And I've been forcibly removed from an all-you-can-eat buffet. Is IHOP a buffet?
Buffet? I'm sorry?
Is IHOP a buffet?
No?
Okay, then I wasn't forcibly removed from one.
You already said this.
I like sharing it. It's a fun story.
Okay.
So, Eraserhead is a movie made in
What a
1977, directed by David Lynch, a completely normal human being. He is very normal. He is not at all weird or crazy. He's just an average human being. So
Cole is lying to you. It's not. Oh, god damn it.
he's batshit insane. Okay, so I love Eraserhead. I think I've seen Eraserhead maybe a couple dozen times. I love it. It's so weird. I love it. But I want to know what you thought about it because you haven't seen this movie yet.
Well, I watched half of it.
Why did you watch half of it, Joe?
Well, okay, so you're like, all right, we're gonna talk about Eraserhead, right, for the podcast. So
Yeah.
I'm watching it at night, and keep in mind, I'm going into this watching it for the sake of like, all right, I want to see how interesting it is. I'm looking for details, whatever. I was so bored, I was falling asleep.
God damn it. This is going to be a fun conversation.
Oh boy.
So, tell me what you saw. What was at least something that stood out to you that you liked?
That I mean, I'll be honest, maybe if I watched it a little earlier in the day,
Okay.
I probably could have gotten through it. I might have just honestly been tired at the time.
Okay.
As a whole, I like weird stuff. It was interesting.
Okay.
I just, yeah, honest. That's my
All
answer
right.
to that.
Did you understand the plot?
There was a plot?
Okay. So, there's Jack Nance, right? He plays as Eraserhead. Eraserhead gets his girlfriend pregnant, and then they have the kid, that deformed fetus thing together,
Yeah.
okay?
That I understand.
The main motif is about, like, fatherhood. Did you get any of that?
That I sort of got, yeah. A little bit.
A little bit, okay. So, for some context, David Lynch, he wrote this while he was it started out as a student film, and then it just kind of spiraled into something bigger, but it's mainly about his fears of becoming a dad. And you gotta imagine how his daughter felt at the time, because, like, she was still young, So then imagine being grown up and then realizing, oh my god, my dad made a movie about me where I'm depicted as a disgusting, weird calf fetus thing. Like, you gotta think about that.
Holy crap, yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you get to the lady in the radiator? That was the woman with the big cheeks.
I skipped around at parts.
Okay.
I was falling asleep. I did see her, and I think I did understand that she was from the radiator.
Yes. So she represents, or at least this is what I think, because David Lynch has never actually, like, said, he's never said what Eraserhead even means, and he never will.
Okay.
He's just kind of like, nobody's guessed it yet. But then again, he's confirmed certain things. So I think he's just, I think he's just being cryptic for the sake of being cryptic. But
Gotcha.
So at the end of the movie, Eraserhead goes with the lady in the radiator, and they just kind of like go off into the distance. And it's implied then that basically the song "In Heaven Everything Is Fine" that she sings is about death and about suicide, and that's what it's about. And damn, you missed it though. When they at the end, he opens up the baby's like bandages.
That I did.
You did see it, okay? Yeah, because that was What'd you think about that?
Well, all I was thinking as I was watching that is that baby is gonna fucking die. I want it to die. Honestly, I'm serious. And I was so disgusted and horrified by it. I was like, there is no way in hell that thing is making it out of this movie alive.
You almost feel bad for it because it's so.
I did not.
You didn't feel bad for it?
I did not.
Okay. I felt bad for it because it looked like it was just in pain the whole time.
I felt bad for Eraserhead.
Okay, I get that. I feel like he has a name. I just call him Eraserhead.
What? I think it's like Harry or Henry.
That's
something.
right. It was Henry. Yeah. God damn it. I've just always called him Eraserhead. Just I don't know. That's what the movie's called. That's what the character should be called. But I don't know. I really liked the movie. I liked the awkward atmosphere. I don't know if you like that. Like just the dead air that would just go on for like a minute.
I mean, maybe it's just because I have a short ass attention span.
Yeah.
I feel like my attention span is pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just there is, especially since I'm watching a movie, there's a certain amount of that I'm willing to tolerate. Like right at the beginning.
Okay.
When they're zooming in on the moon or whatever the hell.
Yep, the man in the planet. Yeah.
I'm like.
You gotta slurp that water.
Yeah, slurp it up, man. I was like, yeah, there's a planet. There's a planet. I get it. Yeah, there's a planet, dude.
You know what movie you shouldn't watch then if you don't like establishing shots of planets? You should not watch 2001: A Space Odyssey.
All right.
That movie is nothing but just here's a spaceship floating for 5 minutes. And it just keeps going and going and going. That's how it is. But Eraserhead, though, was very slow paced. I understand that.
Yeah, I did. I was willing to accept that at least.
Did you feel like it was going anywhere? Like, did you feel like there was a big payoff to it being slow? Because that's kind of the thing with slow burn movies, you know, where it's like it's leading up to something.
Since I saw him cut up the bandages, because as I said, I skipped around, so obviously I must have missed something. But clearly there was definitely a burning explosion about to go off at some point, you know?
Not really. Besides the baby, like, just, you know, that whole thing. And the scene where, like, where his head's, like, cut off and made into, like, erasers. Have you seen that part?
Nope.
That was a whole, like, dream sequence thing. But, yeah, so besides that, though, it's a lot of weird stuff that happens with, I don't really think, any payoff, which almost works in the advantage of the film.
Because that's all it is?
Yeah, and it's a weirder movie for sure. I don't know. I love the way that it's filmed. It's very just industrial, and it's like you get the feeling that it's like he's not even. It's like he's on vacation because they even mention being on vacation. Mm-hmm. So it's like he's not even from that world,
right?
Which is really interesting.
That actually was something I got because like the beginning scene of the guy pulling the levers and everything. I was like, wait, did he like
the little turkey thing when he's cutting that part? That's a little bit later. But, the little tiny turkey and just how, like, they're smiling all the time, There's, like, those, like, weird, awkward pauses. Like, I love that because it's never addressed, too.
Right.
And it's so unique. I really dig that movie. It has a certain vibe to it. So, for some trivia, because I always like to do this whenever, we watch something weird or listen to something weird. So, Jack Nance, who played as Eraserhead, the film, it took 3 years to make. So he had to have that haircut for 3 years.
Why did it take 3 years to film?
Well, it started out as a student film.
Right.
And the script, I believe, was only 30 pages.
Okay.
So the average script, each page is about a minute. So the movie should have only been about 30 minutes then, if that's how it would have gone. But clearly it isn't. So a lot of it was just going back to filming, they'd lose funding, they'd have to get new funding, and, it's just crazy stuff like that. So, yeah, he had to keep that hair for 3 years, and that's, like, one of, like, the big, things about the movie that people always talk about. Well, one of the things they always talk about because it is such a crazy movie. So, the baby, did I ever tell you where the baby, like, what the theory, at least, that I heard online where the baby came from?
No.
Okay. So, there's a theory that I read this online, I have no idea if this is true, where David Lynch just came on set with the baby and he didn't tell anyone where he got it from. And he would just like refuse to answer. And that essentially it was a cow fetus. Like a stillborn cow.
Oh,
like a baby
God.
cow. And it was real. It was actually, that's why it looks so real, is because it is real. It's actually a baby cow. And that it was dead. And they
All
just...
right, you guys can't see this, but I am straight up awestruck right now. I am totally dumbfaced.
Yeah. So it's a baby cow. That's at least the theory that I've heard from a lot of sources. I don't know. It's because there's so much mystery around this movie with it being made, you know?
Right.
But that's what I've heard.
You just gave me PTSD from just mentioning that in any capacity. My life has changed. I can't come back from this, Cole.
So something else that's really interesting is it was filmed in, I believe, Philadelphia. Okay. And it was at a certain place where it's now like really famous for being, Eraserhead was filmed here, you know? And so that's because David Lynch lived there for a while, I believe, while he was in college. And he didn't like it at all. Obviously, in the film reflects that.
Yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. And what else stood out to you when you watched it?
There was... because there was something else that was... Oh, yeah. That... I'm not... As I said, I haven't watched all of it.
Yeah, yeah.
But there was... In the beginning of the movie, there was like that xenomorph chest burster looking thing swimming through the water. Is that supposed...
I have no idea.
Because Eraserhead Henry, whichever,
Yeah.
he like opens a drawer like in his room or whatever, and he grabs something that looks like that,
So,
but like downsized.
the interpretation is that that's how do I word this in a PG way? That's procreation, Joe. That's the male part of it.
Right.
That's what it's meant to represent.
Gotcha.
That's what I think, at least. And
Because
that's the
I
general
did
interpretation.
have a feeling that at the start that was supposed to be like sperm or whatever.
Yeah. That's what it's supposed to be. Yep.
Gotcha.
The music, or like not even music, just the sound.
Yeah, the sound actually was pretty... I was thinking to myself, like, this is the king of just like ambient sound right here.
That was what most of the movie, that's what took them the longest to make, was because it was just, it didn't sound like anything, and they took so long to craft it. And like there's little parts, like where he walks, with the puddle, where he steps in the puddle when he's like walking, out getting his groceries, and there's no sound when he steps in the puddle. It's like little things like that. That's like, why isn't there a sound there? There should be a sound there, and your brain is just all messed up from that. It's I don't know. This is turning into the Shags. This is turning into the Shags, where all I'm going to say is, it's such a bizarre movie, or it's such a bizarre album. Like, I'm just going to keep saying bizarre this whole time.
I swear, though, when I saw that there was a sound when he stepped into the puddle. Honestly. I'm serious.
I'm going to have to rewatch this as soon as we're done, because there wasn't a sound, at least when I watched it.
I'm fairly certain there was like a...
Okay.
Or some kind of splash, all right?
Weird. Yeah, I don't remember there being a splash at all. But yeah, the sound, though, is just... That's what made the movie, in my opinion, as good as it was.
Could definitely see where you're coming from that. Because there really isn't much else apart from the bizarre visuals.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what David Lynch excels at, is the visuals, because at least with this movie, and there's not much meaning behind the visuals.
Yeah.
So I feel like he just kind of like does it just because it looks cool,
right,
while kind of coming up with a meaning as he goes along.
What was the deal with burning his sock? Like, he throws it on the radiator, and there's that pile of what I assume is like sock residue.
I have no idea, Joe.
No clue.
I really don't. I mean, there's so much. It's just there's so much stuff that I don't know. I didn't get the story till like my third watch, so
All right.
I don't know. There's so much that I miss. It's just like, for example, like, the woman in the hallway obviously represents lust and that kind of stuff. That's kind of obvious. But I don't know. I love the atmosphere. That's my favorite part of the movie. That and the sound design, obviously, and the crazy visuals. It's just, there's no other movie like it.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, it's another trivia thing that I just found out today, actually. Stanley Kubrick, you know who that is?
No.
He made The Shining.
Gotcha.
Okay. So when he was making The Shining, he had the cast and crew all watch Eraserhead because he wanted an atmosphere similar to that. Granted, I don't really see that watching The Shining because The Shining is also one of my favorite movies, but I don't really get that kind of vibe from it at all. I think,
Right. I
don't know, because that movie also has, The Shining, also has moments that are just so weird and random, I don't know if you've seen it or not, have you?
No.
Okay. But it just...
Isn't it based off of a Stephen King thing?
Yeah, it's kind of similar to the book, but not really. Stephen King notoriously hates the movie.
Really?
Yeah, he hates the Stanley Kubrick version. So much so that he made a miniseries, and it was garbage. It was like the Shining miniseries.
Yeah.
Look it up when you get the chance. The part where he busts in, when he goes, "Here's Johnny," in the movie. They replaced that in the miniseries with the line in the book, which is just, "Boo." So it's the dumbest stuff. And, like, the main characters look like models,
Yeah.
So like when they're going crazy, it's like you just see an actor, you know.
Right.
Whereas with Jack Nicholson, God damn it, we're gonna talk about The Shining, but it's like it helps movies when they have more ugly actors, or actors that
Yeah.
aren't like Scarlett Johansson or Brad Pitt, Like this movie could never work if it wasn't Jack Nance in the role. I'm meaning Eraserhead.
Yeah.
If it wasn't this guy as Eraserhead, it wouldn't be the same movie, and it'd honestly be worse because he does a fantastic job. I think everyone does too.
Has a lot of the cast, obviously, to my understanding, David Lynch has made a name for himself, right? Has some of the cast also had that sort of opportunity? Were they able to?
I mean, Jack Nance unfortunately passed away, I believe, in the 90s, and he didn't really have much of a career to my knowledge. I know that the guy who plays as the Man in the Planet, right? He, I think, became a cinematographer, or at least like maybe I know he did art. I don't know if he did cinematography, but I know that he kind of just stayed in the little bit in the industry, but not really. Just kind of like he was just doing his own thing. Yeah, I don't think. Besides David Lynch, I don't think any of them really had much of a career.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Because going through 3 years of that.
Yeah. I don't think it discouraged them because they all speak so highly of David Lynch.
Oh.
That it's like it wasn't like it was a negative experience, but
Right.
it's just I don't know. Maybe because it's hard to cast someone, especially when they're so well known for like a movie like Eraserhead,
Yeah.
that it's hard to cast them in certain things without people automatically thinking of Eraserhead. Which is why a lot of Superman actors don't get work after they're Superman.
Oh. Okay.
So, God, what was his name? Brandon Routh, he was Superman in like 2006 with Superman Returns.
Yeah.
I don't think he got any work at all. I know he was in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and I know that he was he reprised his role as Superman in Crisis on Infinite Earths earlier in 2019.
Gotcha.
But that's about it. I don't really know anything else he's been in. I mean, Henry Cavill has the Mission Impossible movies, but after that, I don't think he has anything. So it's like, it's kind of a curse, which is why I wonder why you would ever accept the role of Superman.
I don't know.
I mean,
I guess he's not as much of a symbol as he is or was.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because you're being typecasted, And I feel like it's up to the actor to get rid of that typecasting then. Like Jonah Hill, for example. I always talk about Jonah Hill in these. I swear to God, man.
Dude, I haven't been keeping track.
I love Jonah Hill so much. And he managed to break that typecasting of, oh, he's the dumb fat person, you
Right.
know? And he ended up, becoming a director and a writer-director and making, a fantastic movie mid-90s.
Yeah.
So it's like, I feel like it's up to the actor then to do that. And I'm not blaming Jack Nance or any of the Eraserhead cast for not getting work, don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, though, it's like, I don't know. David Lynch ended up doing Dune after this. Dune, the 1984 one.
That would explain why that movie is pretty bizarre.
Yeah. So he made Dune. He also made Twin Peaks. If you're aware with that, he did the show and he did the movie. And those are obviously, I haven't seen.
I didn't know Twin Peaks had a film.
Yeah, it was called something like, I don't know what it was called, like something Inferno maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen any Twin Peaks. I've only seen like a little bit of clips. I saw David Bowie because he had a cameo in the movie, and I
Gotcha.
saw like the clip of him in the movie where he had a Cajun accent. It was just bizarre. He came on screen, he's talking in like this like deep Southern accent, and I'm like, the hell? It was so weird. So he also David Lynch wanted to do things where it's like people speak normally, and then he reverses the footage, and obviously then the dialogue would be all reversed, and then you just have a subtitle. He wanted to do that with Eraserhead, but he didn't, and he eventually did that then for Twin Peaks. So I don't know. I feel like he has such a strange filmography.
I would agree.
He was considered for the directing job for Return of the Jedi. But you got to watch this video of him. Never mind, download complete for something else. But so he was considered for it. Let me just turn down my. There we go. He was considered for it, but then if you watch this interview with him, where he had lunch with George Lucas and he's talking about it. I was telling you about that.
Yeah.
He's like, he kept talking about Wookiees, and it just gave me a headache. I just wanted to go home.
Right.
So, I don't know. Compared to somebody like, Alejandro Jodorowsky, who really only makes his own stuff. He doesn't, he didn't do any big blockbusters. He was going to make Dune. Jodorowsky was.
Right.
But then, David Lynch got a hold of it. But, yeah, it's just, I don't know, man. It's just, I love Eraserhead. It's so bizarre. But, I don't know. I wish that he would make, like, something even weirder,
Something weirder.
Yeah,
Right.
even weirder. I'd like that direction from him. But, I mean, have you seen, on Netflix, he just did something called What Did Jack Do?
I think I've seen at least the title card or whatever.
Yeah, where it's a talking monkey and he's like interrogating him, and that's
Yeah.
really weird. I like it. The dialogue is really sharp and kind of strange almost. It's interesting to say the least, but it's entertaining. I liked it.
Is it a full length film or is
It's
it
15
series?
minutes long. It's 15. It's a short film.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to tell you about Eraserhead. Just because there's so much stuff in it,
Right.
that it's so hard to talk about it. I feel like this is lacking any substance.
I mean, well, I guess my advice be go chronologically, if that's possible.
Yeah, so basically he was going to make a movie called, I think, Garden Back, something like that, where it was this thing with like, its back had like a garden on it, like with flowers and stuff. And then eventually he reworked the script into Eraserhead.
That is... Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
He also... What else? Well, first, he wasn't a filmmaker. He wanted to be a painter.
Mm-hmm.
And then he thought like,
That makes sense.
It makes sense.
Too,
'cause
yeah.
It's very visual with the stuff that, he has in his movies. So basically, he then thought, hey, what if paintings could move? And then he would make moving paintings that were like animated. And like, they're really strange and absurd and like abstract in a way. I really like them. But then again, though, it's like you got to wonder if there's any substance to it.
Yeah.
Because it could just be, I'm going to make something weird. You know, like that. Then you got to wonder then, well, why are you making it weird? And what's the message?
Oh, yeah.
So for some of his paintings, it's kind of like, oh, it's weird for the sake of being weird, But, and then eventually he decided to make Eraserhead as a student film.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of spiraled into getting support financially from various, I believe, oh God, who was it? It was maybe somebody in the cast who had like a really small role. I don't remember, but they were like producers who funded most of it. Huh. And when the movie came out, it was just a smash hit because it was just so weird.
Oh, really?
That word of mouth carried it, and it was like, you got to see this movie. You got to see it. And it was a midnight movie, where people would go and they'd see it, and it was just so bizarre. Because, you got to think, it was 1977 when this came out. Star Wars came out the same year. And it's like, you got to consider that, I think Exorcist was out because that came out in 1973. But, still, it pushed so many limits.
Right.
You know? And, I don't know, it's just that baby is just so haunting,
That came as a surprise to me. I never think of any movie like that going into theaters, like Eraserhead.
Yeah. You got to really... what are some other midnight movies that you might know? The first one was Freaks, and that was where they filmed with actual, like, circus, people who had, like, deformities and stuff.
Right.
And I don't know if that's a politically correct term or not. Deformities? I don't know. But, like, they had, like, missing limbs and stuff. And, there was, like, a lady with a beard and that kind of stuff. So that was, like, one of the first ones because it was just so shocking.
Yeah.
And, at the end they kill the abusive circus, ringleader guy.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's an awesome movie. It's one of those that's kind of bizarre, but not, like, Eraserhead bizarre. It's just kind of like, because the main characters are, like, actual people with disfigurements, and it's in the 30s. So think about how they would handle that, historically.
Oh.
Yeah, it's kind of handled, it's like it's a horror movie in a way,
right?
With the way that they portray them.
It was released in the 30s, you mean?
Yes, released and made in the 30s. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Some other midnight movies, Pink Flamingos. It's a John Waters movie. That was just completely shocking. I feel like if you watched some of the clips, you'd understand where a lot of my humor kind of comes from.
Yeah.
Because that movie is just so terrible. Like, like disgusting wise.
Yeah.
Like the shit that is said in there is just so out there that it just makes me laugh every time. Like at the end where they have Divine, who's like this drag queen. Right?
Okay.
And they have this whole like court thing to figure out who's the most disgusting person in the world.
What?
Yeah. Trust me, that's not even the weirdest part of that movie. But so Divine just goes on this rant where she's just like, condone first-degree murder, legalize cannibalism, like all these, like she just goes on this like whole rant about everything, and it's so funny. But that's another one where it shocked people to the point where they're like, we gotta go see it like right now.
Gotcha.
I
didn't know this was a whole genre.
Oh yeah.
Just off the wall shit.
Yeah. It's, at the time, in the 70s, you had, what are some like 70s movies that were coming out? Because, obviously, you had like the sci-fi stuff.
Right.
Just a lot of like mainstream movies. Yeah, every decade has like the rom-coms, and like the romance movies and that kind of stuff. So it's interesting when you see that this stuff was being made at the same time, and released at the same time as something like Star Wars or Jaws or, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. When, I'm trying to think of other like midnight movies that kind of like came out. Because there's just, I don't know, it fascinates me just how strange these movies are, and especially at the time when they came out.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it's interesting to put yourself in the shoes of somebody from the 70s seeing that.
Yeah.
Like, not, especially when, the posters and the marketing, it was literally just Jack Nance, Eraserhead.
Yeah.
Just kind of like staring like this while there was like kind of like smoke.
That was like, the poster?
Yeah, let me pull up the poster actually so you can see it.
I think, I looked this up just earlier because I was talking about it.
Like this. See, that's all it really was. So, you know, what would you expect just seeing this? You know?
Utter terror is...
Now, here's an interesting thing, right? I showed the trailer to Alana, and she was just terrified by it. She couldn't get through the whole thing. Do you consider this movie a horror movie?
No, absolutely not.
Were you still frightened by it? Were you scared at all?
I was shocked, but I was not. I was not scared.
Okay.
From the stuff that I had seen, I was just kind of like, "Whoa, hey,
Yeah.
that's something new."
Yeah. The cinematography, I think, really helped it with being creepy, especially with the fact that it's black and white.
Yeah.
If it was filmed in color, it just wouldn't work. Would you agree with that statement? If it was in color?
It would have. I don't know. Honestly.
Okay.
I honestly don't know. I think it could go both ways because color just gives it the more real elements, so it takes away from it being abstract, but it looking more real could probably be even more shocking or terrifying, you know, with the color.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Begotten. Have you ever heard of that movie?
No.
Okay. It's okay. I literally found out about it like a week ago, so it's really out there. It's like this, where it's filmed in black and white, but tell you what, I'll just pull up a few frames, okay? It is probably the most terrifying thing ever. Yeah, I want you to, it'll probably say it on here, the year it came out, but just guess what year this thing came out. Actually, here, just wait, don't look at the computer yet. All right, ready, and there you go.
So
You can look at it.
I'm gonna guess 2004.
Good guess.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
1990. Yeah, but it was filmed on a really old camera so that it had that kind of look. Yeah, that was that costume right there.
Holy crap.
Yeah, that's the poster.
So was this
This is not a David Lynch movie or anything, no.
Right. But so this is meant to be a horror movie. This is not like one of those weird movies.
Well,
I don't want to say
both. What it does is it's apparently the story is apparently Genesis, you know, from the Bible.
Yeah.
I didn't get any of that when I watched it. This movie's actually really boring.
Oh.
If you think Eraserhead was boring, Joe, you would not get through the first 5 minutes of this movie.
All right.
It is legitimately terrible. The visuals are really neat, though. I like, you know. Like
yeah, I mean, that costume looks fucking terrifying.
Oh, I know. But, like, this kind of imagery, you know, with, like, the robed figures moving around in the desert.
Ominous.
You know, it's like you shouldn't be watching it. Like, look at that, man.
Yeah, holy crap.
And see, this is an instance of them where the black and white really helps it.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cosplay, but you know this. You know, it's like if this wasn't color, like it wouldn't work. It really wouldn't. But
that.
Yeah. So really, though,
I would agree.
This is what most of it is, though. Is this guy right here, and it's just the people in the robe just kind of like beating him up. That's what the rest of the movie is. This thing is literally in it for like the first 5 minutes.
And that's it?
Yeah, and then it's dead. Because it's dying in this clip.
Oh,
that
it's
I'm showing
dying.
You. Yeah. So, I know this makes no sense for people listening right now. But, yeah, Begotten is just a weird movie. And eventually the director would go on to direct Marilyn Manson music videos. So, it kind of makes sense when you see this kind of stuff. But, yeah, so... And that's how I found out about it, was through Marilyn Manson. Because, you know, he loves these movies, you know. And, or, you know, because... See, you can see it right there, Marilyn Manson, you know, with the Begotten poster. So that's another one, though, where I feel like with black and white, it makes it...
That definitely does make it.
Visually stunning. But yeah, Eraserhead, I feel like, is the same thing where it doesn't work if it's in color. Because it just... That's the look of it, you know? And if they tried to color correct it or anything or film it in a certain way, just it wouldn't work. So...
Yeah, I'll still... Again, I think I'm leaning towards disagreeing with you on that one.
Okay.
But I'm not, as you know, into the whole film business, so I'm not entirely sure.
Well,
But-
even from your perspective, I'd like to hear what you have to say about why you think it'd work in color.
I just, because it's not like we saw the Begotten thing, right?
Yeah.
That terrifying woman creature, whatever that was.
Yeah.
But I think with Eraserhead, since that's more just abstract life,
Yeah.
like even the Radiator woman, right? That's her name.
Yeah.
That I think would have an impact if it was in color, just because it looks normal, but it doesn't. It's surreal.
Oh, so it's like the Uncanny Valley. Is that what you're saying?
That kinda. I don't know. I think just because of most of the people they go over to dinner, for example. If he stuck that mini turkey or whatever, and then it started gushing blood or whatever it was doing, that would still look off. I think it would still definitely look off.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I don't disagree with you there.
I think, it's just that idea, as I said earlier, of we see in color already, so it would look more real, but at the same time more surreal if it were in color.
Okay.
Because I don't know.
I understand what you're saying, for sure. Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword, I think.
And I think that's why so many people like David Lynch's later films as well, like Twin Peaks is in color, obviously, and it has that kind of vibe to it. So I understand exactly where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like, though, certain scenes wouldn't work in color. For example, The Man in the Planet.
That I would agree. Just because that one looked a lot...
It's all in shadows.
It's all in shadows, and that sort of camera quality, I guess, looks older than some of the others.
Kind of like Begotten, too. That kind of reminded me of that. So, I wonder if that was an influence. If Eraserhead was an influence on Begotten.
That, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know. Some people are just like, I'm gonna
scare everyone.
I'm going to have the children just be utterly terrified.
But then you gotta wonder, though, where it goes. If it's too boring. Obviously, where would you draw the line? Would you think? I don't know. I'll end it there. What do you think is better? It's kind of a stupid question, but what's too boring and what isn't boring?
What's too boring?
What's something that's just so abstract that you're like, I don't care.
Specifically for
Eraserhead.
Eraserhead?
Just we'll go there.
I think just if it moved along, I don't even care if a plot doesn't even exist for the movie, for that kind of movie. If there isn't a plot, I don't really care, so long as things are happening, because the whole zooming in on the planet, or him walking for however long he was walking at the start, or the fetus crying that first time it was crying. It's just I get it, I just that I would definitely get bored with. But if it was that same idea just condensed, I wouldn't care.
And I feel like that's a result of the script being only 35 pages,
Yeah.
Because, I mean, name any movie,
Right.
Any movie right now, just...
I don't know. Rise of Skywalker?
Okay, Rise of Skywalker. So that script, or at least I'm sure one of the versions of the many scripts that they wrote for that damn movie, is most likely, give or take. I think the movie's about 2.5 hours?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's probably around 200 pages?
Yeah.
I'd assume. And that works for that kind of movie. With Eraserhead, it's 80 minutes. So that'd be about 80 pages you have to write out.
So they didn't adapt the script. They had the same script throughout.
It's hardly even a script. I mean, if you buy the movie through Criterion, the script is included, and it's literally just a description of events happening, which is kind of what a script is, but not really the movie. Like you
Not-
can't really follow along, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, granted though, the movie that we're doing, Another Day Closer to the Sun, is the script is only 19 pages,
Right.
19, for a movie that needs to be like 90 minutes or around that area.
So it could potentially have the same kind of effect, is what you're saying.
Maybe, because the thing is that I feel like when you get a slower paced movie like what our movie is, it's okay if, because a lot of it's just paragraphs in the script, you
Yeah.
know, where it's like maybe a paragraph, you know, that's like this like little thing on a page is going to be like maybe 5 minutes long,
Right.
you know, but there's still stuff happening, obviously, but it's just you don't really want to be redundant when you're writing the script, so that it's like, you know, he walks down the stairs, you know, and that's kind of just how I write my stuff, when
Yeah.
really there could be more happening on screen. You know, I like to write mine like it's a book and then adapt it while I film it.
Yeah.
That's why, like, when we were filming one of your first scenes, I was just constantly going back and forth to the script and just, you know, staring at it, making sure that, you know, it's right with the way that it is. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like it just depends on the filmmaker. You know, I mean, you got people like, who's somebody that just like plans it out completely? I mean, granted, as a filmmaker, a lot of people should plan it out completely, unless you're
Doing the rest of the crew a service, I guess.
yeah, but I mean, like, you know, gosh, I mean, reading, you know, like the George Lucas scripts, you know, for the original Star Wars trilogy, a lot of that is very planned out,
Right.
you know, and I don't know, sometimes I like not even filming with the script. That's more me, but I mean, Firewood, you know,
mean like more improv or just without the script in hand?
no script at all, like not even writing one, and just
Oh.
coming up with stuff on the spot. So Firewood was one where I didn't have a script.
So that's just total improv.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
I put on the costume because I had the idea for it, and I'm like, all right, you know, Luke, grab the camera. Let's just go out to the, you know, right out there in the field,
Yeah.
and then we'll just kind of come up with it as we go along,
All right.
and then just kind of go from there. So that's one way you could do it. Obviously, that's a huge risk, you know, because it could just turn into nothing.
Yeah.
And the plot could just be garbage, which granted, there really isn't a plot for Firewood. It's a short film, you know, it's just, I hear a noise, I go out to the woods, and then I get killed. You know, that's not really a plot, but I don't know. I feel like, obviously, there are movies where they were made without a script and they're terrible. Like Transformers Revenge of the Fallen barely even had a script. And watching it, you know, you understand why it's terrible. It's because there was no script. And that's because there was a writer's strike going on at the time. So they couldn't really find anyone to write it. But, you know, I don't know. I like the feeling of, we're just going to film this now. We're going to get it done, you know?
Yeah.
And then,
I can get behind that.
because a movie's written in 3 parts, right? It's written on the script while you film it and then while you edit it,
Yeah.
right? The dialogue scene that we filmed for Another Day Closer to the Sun is completely different than the script. And then even in the editing thing, I'm still like, oh, what if I add his, you know, like your dialogue scene,
Right.
or, you know, this little thing that you just said, what if I add that before that part? So then when you watch it, you're going to be like, that's not in order the way I said it, but it
Yeah.
still works, you know? And I feel like if you're constantly challenging yourself, then that's how you can grow. You know, like, I'm terrible with writing dialogue.
Right.
You know, that's why a lot of my stuff doesn't have dialogue in it. With Firewood, that one, there's no dialogue. With this one, this movie that we're doing now, there's 2 scenes with dialogue.
Yeah.
One of them is over the phone, so I don't have to constantly be going back and forth. So I'm working on getting that rhythm down, though, with the one that we filmed, where it's like, you know, cut to me, I say my line, cut to you, you know, but there's a rhythm to it that you got to get down.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just turns out really janky. So, you know, I just feel like that's important, too. Because, you know, it's so interesting. I mean, we're going to be filming a movie literally tonight in like an hour that we don't have a script for.
Yeah.
I have a loose idea. I wouldn't say we, you know, I just kind of came up to you during lunch, like, let's film something right after the podcast. You know, I got this idea. So, I don't know. I think that's kind of exciting, though.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good to get something done.
Yeah.
Working on something can be a blast, but getting it done.
And that's where I
is-
falter in my opinion, because I mean, I've written countless scripts and then be like, yep, okay, I'm going to film it on this date, this date, and this date. And then it never happens.
Or yeah, me with my board games, I haven't finished any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is resources, but most of that I honestly don't have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's the thing of all I gotta do is sit down and type some stuff out, but I don't, you know?
Yeah. And why is that? Why don't you just sit down and type it all out?
I don't know, because there are a lot of times when I'm at home and I'm really bored, but I can't find anything to do, you know?
I feel the same thing happens to me.
And like I don't even like I just end up sort of wandering around the house. My mom is like, "Hey, what are you looking for?" And it's like I don't know.
I mean, I do the same thing, except the bad thing with me is that when I do sit down to work on stuff, I get so ambitious that I DM literally everyone and go, "I'm working on this new project. You want to do it?" And you know that because I've done that to you countless times. Hey, I'm working on this new project. You want to help me out with it? And then I never mention it again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at least
I think, at least for me, you might be blowing that out of proportion, so don't beat yourself too up about that. But
yeah. I mean, I try to get stuff done. It's hard because I live in the middle of nowhere, you know? And, like, to your place, it's like, what, a 20-minute drive from here?
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not like I can just walk across the street and be like, hey, let's film something, you know? So, and it's like, you got to come up with something that's really easy to film, too. You know, write what you have and write what you know. So, you know, like with the tombstone thing that we're doing, you know, zombie project, it's like, okay, you know, I have someone that can make these tombstones.
Right.
I have a place for the tombstones right out there. All I need now is just actors. You know, I can do the special effects, you know, all practical, you know, and it's like, then it kind of gets going, right? And so, you know, how many ideas have you had in one thing where you're like, you know, oh, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this, like different ideas before you jump on something? Like, how many different ideas do you normally get?
Before I start working, you mean?
Yeah, like different, like for example, like with this one that we're doing now, Another Day Closer to the Sun.
Yeah.
I had maybe like, I don't know, 5 different ideas for my first feature film, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't know which one I wanted, which genre or anything. You know, like what do you do with your board games? With
The board games are pretty set in stone. The main one, that's sort of all-encompassing, has had one previous version from when I was much younger. But the universe as a whole, I wouldn't say I've had like separate ideas, but it's iterated and iterated and iterated. Like the story element of it has gone over and over and over. Like the Upguard character alone has gone through multiple variations, you know?
I feel that, yeah. I mean, have you ever just started something, you know, you actually get a lot of progress done on it, and then you just drop it for something else?
To a certain extent with the board games, but I think it's more of a practical decision because I was working on one thing and then I downsized it and then I downsized it again. So it was doing something that I could actually do rather than something I couldn't.
That reminds me of, I mentioned this before on the first episode of The Town of Smiles, that movie I was making, where at first it was like, it's going to be my first feature film, you know, and it's going to be amazing. I'm going to color grade it myself and everything. You know, it's going to have all these actors in. And then I'm like, well, hold on. I could, you know, rewrite it really quick, you know, trim a few characters, you know, and then go from there. And I go, okay. And then I'm like, oh, I could do it in black and white because then I don't have to color grade it. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I can make it a short film instead. And now I'm not even doing it anymore, you know?
Right.
Which kind of sucks because people that were in the cast were really excited to work on it.
Okay.
And then it just kind of fell through.
Okay. With your example,
yeah.
Now I'm trying to think more specifically of something like that. And yeah, honestly, I don't think I can think of much. Because, I mean, a lot of the games and everything that I'm working on, I haven't really dropped. You know, I'm still working on them.
Okay, yeah.
Whether or not that's a month from now or not, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we talked about this before though, where it's like you reincorporate certain things into it,
Yeah.
and that's really interesting too to see certain aspects of it, come back,
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny too is that since that conversation, I rewrote the script for Another Day Closer to the Sun, and literally anything that was somewhat resembling Ton of Smiles is now completely gone.
Huh.
So now it's back to just being like its own thing without any outside
Yeah.
influence. Because I was writing it and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's literally just a hybrid of two different movies.
That...
And
Go ahead and finish.
yeah, it didn't really mesh up well,
Yeah.
and it didn't go the way I wanted it to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was thinking about the influences of the movie. It's heavily influenced by At Eternity's Gate, which is a movie about Van Gogh. Right?
Okay.
It's influenced by Last Days by Gus Van Sant, which is somewhat inspired by Kurt Cobain, but not really. Like they kind of because they don't want to get sued, And that movie, it's very slow paced.
Yeah.
It's just kind of him just walking around the house, before he ends up, offing himself. And it's very slow and kind of introspective. And I like that. With At Eternity's Gate, it's very colorful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can show you a few clips, later. It's just so vibrant that I love that cinematography. And then Eraserhead was my third influence for this movie because I wanted weird things to happen.
Yeah.
But over time, it's kind of shed that because it was like, okay, now it's getting too weird,
Yeah, I'd imagine...
And it was just hard to balance everything.
Yeah. I... Sort of similar to that. My sci-fi universe is pretty heavily influenced by Warhammer 40K, which we've talked about before.
Yeah.
But then I was like, this is way too much like what that is.
Yeah.
So I had to really grind my creative gears to get, at the very least, original names and stuff.
Yeah.
It was still clearly separate, It was not one and the same, but there were a lot of stuff that was clearly like, no, you can't, you're gonna get sued, Joe. You can't do that. Like, my original idea, keep in mind I was like 3rd, 4th grade for this story. It was Upgard in his world. Earth was a dystopia. And it was all desert. It was Pangea. And all he did is he went around and dug up stuff, but there were weird interdimensional rifts that were just taking stuff from other intellectual properties. And then I was like, wait a minute. I can't do that, can I?
There's something really unique about that, though, because, you're a kid and you don't really know about copyright laws.
Right.
So you just write the weirdest stuff ever.
Yeah.
Like I used to write like Godzilla comic books, and it'd be like, and then Godzilla fights Superman, and then Superman then fights Godzilla, and then he fights King Kong, and it's like, obviously that never happened nowadays, though it could.
It could,
Because they're both owned by Warner Brothers now, and Disney's gonna own everything soon. So we're gonna get Iron Man versus Godzilla versus God. But
Disney's gonna buy the Catholic Church.
I wouldn't put it past Disney at this point. So, it's so bizarre with kids writing stuff that it makes you almost want to go back and like revisit it because there's just something so creative about it that you can never come up with it nowadays.
To a certain extent, there was, because I always had the idea of there being something happened to Earth and a dystopia happens, and that was the original idea, and I've sort of made it make it more sound, make it not dumb. Is the best way to put it.
I get that. I feel that. Yeah.
That's sort of what you were talking about. How you're Another Day Closer to the Sun, where you had Town of Smiles, Town of Sun, but you took some ideas and then you took some out.
Yeah. Well, all of them are out now.
All of them.
The Town of Smiles stuff. It is completely gone. Maybe there's a shot that I'm considering keeping in that's similar to that stuff, but it's like, it just became like it was having an identity crisis.
Yeah.
And the movie in and of itself is a drama, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the motif of the movie is loneliness.
Right.
Okay, I don't want to give too much away, but that's what the motif is.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started introducing elements of it being a thriller with slight, nods of like horror.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was to the point then where it's like, well, I don't need this, and it doesn't affect the plot at all. You know? Like, I had this character that was called the Watcher, who had this like blank white mask that kind of like stalked the main character. But then I'm like, it doesn't add anything.
Yeah.
Because literally, the only thing that would have happened was that it would have somewhat affected the end of the movie, but not by much.
Yeah.
Because my character would still get to the end of the movie with where he's at,
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to give too much away. Right?
Yeah.
But, so that it kind of sucks, because then it was like, oh, I like that idea. So then it's like, oh, I'll just put it on the shelf for later. You know?
That could be it's an idea other people have had, but that could be pretty cool.
Especially because I've had the mask since 7th grade, and I've wanted to use it now for so long.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, God, I've had this now for 4 years, and I'm still waiting to use it. So, there's so many ideas that I just, wanted to do, but I couldn't because of time or money or anything. I don't know if I mentioned this, but the Mothman conspiracy, did I ever tell you about that? How if you still Google my name, Mothman Conspiracy shows up, and it's the Kickstarter page. You want to see the Kickstarter page?
I'm very curious.
All right. So basically, it was this whole thing where it's like I play as a.
Oh, wait a minute.
Oh wait, here I'll just do this.
I think you did mention this at some point.
I'm sure I did, but my character was like a cryptozoologist, and it was just the weirdest plot ever. But I thought it was awesome, and I literally filmed none of it.
Actually, you know what? Just because I'm really into SCP.
Oh yeah, I love
I
SCP.
like the idea of a cryptobiologist. That could definitely be a whole series.
Yeah. The only thing was that it wasn't that interesting to me.
Yeah.
And then I eventually just kind of like dropped it here. I'll just look up Mothman. My name and then Mothman. There it is. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you like that Photoshop. Oh, what?
Huh. Is it not there?
Unless. Oh, no, there it is.
Yeah, there it is.
So, yeah, so I only had 2 backers. And I only got $50 out of it. So, a cryptozoologist sees the Mothman. Period. Space. Terrible. Just, that's not a sentence. After the sighting, many characters go missing and a deadly conspiracy begins to slowly unravel. So, I thought this was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of like go through and I, mention all my favorite filmmakers, and it was fun making it.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was like I didn't really know what I was doing.
Right.
And frankly, in my opinion, I did not need $580 to make this movie. So it's like, you gotta wonder what I was thinking at the time. But, it was 3 years ago and I've learned from that. And now I'm making a movie where literally I'm doing this with no money.
Yeah.
Like Another Day Closer to the Sun doesn't have any money for the budget.
Right.
I think the only thing I've spent money on was maybe a little toy model of something, right? I don't want to mention what it is, but, it's like that's the only thing that I really spent money on. So, I don't know. It's interesting. It's funny, though, seeing all the support stuff here.
Oh, my gosh.
Literally just an action figure that I just put the PNG on. So it's like, yeah, and I had an original copy of the script that I was going to give out to people, but except for the fact that it was literally 6 pages long, and this is going to be my first feature film. So, yeah, it's just it's interesting to see where this could have gone. I mean, yeah, it's bizarre. It really is.
That's the bizarre one. I would agree.
But, now I'm at least making it more grounded. Like, hey, maybe I shouldn't have monster fights go on for like 20 minutes in the script and figure out how to animate that.
Are you big into hard sci-fi?
How so?
Well, so there's, Star Wars is like sci-fantasy.
Yeah.
40K is sci-fantasy. But then there are more...
You're talking like a Blade Runner and stuff?
Maybe because it's more of a level of how accurate it is.
Oh, like Star Trek.
Star Trek, yeah. I mean, that one's still
Well, like the old Star Trek at least.
right. But
I'm not that big of a fan of science, honestly.
Oh, all right.
Like when it comes to like, science classes, I almost failed biology. I don't see myself being a science aficionado.
Just as an example, The Expanse, if you heard of that would be...
I haven't, no.
Oh, all right. That's, I think, some Amazon original based off of a book series.
Okay.
That would be a hard sci-fi. Anyways, just because you mentioned sort of dialing it back a bit.
Yeah.
That's definitely been another thing that I've been doing with my thing.
That's interesting.
I mean, I'm really into science, of course, too.
Yeah.
But it's just cool to have something, because in Star Wars, a Star Destroyer is incomprehensible.
Yeah,
the size
obviously.
of it, everything.
Especially with the fact that it hovers, even though it shows no ability to hover at all.
Right, yeah.
The engines are in the back, and it should just be moving like a plane.
Yeah.
Like, okay, carry on. I don't want to talk about Star Wars anymore, Joe. We spent a whole episode doing that.
But my whole thing is I just was like, I want to make this grounded and make it more tangible,
Yeah.
Because numbers are so big, it would just be cool to have a sci-fi series that people could really like, oh, hey, that is a boat. That's the size of a boat.
Yeah.
And that makes sense,
Have you seen the movie Moon?
No.
Okay. I got the DVD up in my room. I'll give it to you before you leave. We don't have to talk about it on the podcast or anything. It's just It's something that you should watch, though, because it's really good. It's directed by David Bowie's son. And it's about this thing on the moon where energy is sent out and it's, sent towards Earth because there's like a thing where they need, fuel.
They got an energy crisis or whatever.
Not really. I don't think it's like an energy crisis, but it's like it's an alternative fuel source that they just kind of use a lot. And I gotta watch the movie again. It's been like 2 years since I've seen it. But basically, there's a whole twist. So don't even look it up. Don't watch any trailers. Just when you get home, just pop it in and watch it, because the trailers spoil the twist right away.
Okay.
And I had it spoiled for me, and I'm like, oh, great. That would have been really cool if I would have had that revealed for me. But all I'm saying, though, is that that's a hard sci-fi from what you're describing.
Yeah.
Like, everything seems tangible. All the vehicles, despite it being, like, it's up on the moon where this guy lives, and, everything seems tangible. Like, the moon base isn't this, like, whole, like, expansive thing. It just looks like a NASA shuttle, but just kind of, like, made to, live on. He's got, like, a treadmill in there, for example.
Right.
That looks like it's from Earth, So it's just little things like that kind of add to it. But there's a robot in there, too, that is very similar to, like, Alexa or Siri.
Yeah.
So, oh, God. I just remembered who voices the robot. We were just talking about him.
What's going on?
Kevin Spacey voices the robot, or like the AI system
in
Moon. Oh, God. I just forgot about that whole thing.
Uh-oh.
All right, but anyways, we're getting way off topics. We were talking about Eraserhead. So, what is your rating for Eraserhead? Remember, negative 10.
Oh, my God.
Negative 10 means that it's literally so bad, it's like God tier. 10 means that it's, it's amazing, it's a masterpiece. 0 means it's unwatchable.
I will give it a positive 6.
A positive 6, okay.
Just because I didn't watch it all the way through, honestly.
Okay.
I was thinking 5 just because that's nice and average, but a 6 just because I see the potential.
Okay, I gotcha. I'd give it...
I'm a film critic.
I gotcha. I'd give it like an 8. I love the movie, and I get why you say it's boring. It's not a movie that I just turn on, in the background. Obviously, it's something I kind of have to watch, but at the same time, that's a good thing. Yeah. So, you know what? I think I'm going to probably pump it up to like a 9, I'd say.
Really?
I don't know. Because it's one of my favorite movies of all time, and I love having it. How do I word this? I like watching it while I go to sleep, because the little moments of quietness kind of like make me like relax.
Well, that's what I was doing.
So that makes sense the way I fell asleep to it. So I understand that. So yeah, my rating is a 9. Yours is a 6.
averages out to what, like a 7.5 or something?
I'd say so. Yeah. So now we're gonna end with our 2 questions that we always ask. What movies have you seen? Obviously, Eraserhead. Yeah. And then the video games. So, what movies have you seen besides Eraserhead?
No movies.
No movies.
No movies.
All right. God, I'm trying to think of. I watched Django last night. I was just telling you about that.
Yeah.
I've been on a Tarantino binge recently, where I put it on before bed. But his movies are so good that they keep me up, and then I watch the whole movie, and it ends at like midnight, and then I'm like, oh crap, I have school tomorrow, and I get like 3 hours of sleep. So,
Yikes.
Yeah, I know. But so I watched Django last night. The night before, I watched Hateful Eight, and then the night before,
That one's really good.
The Hateful Eight.
Yeah, that
You
one's
saw it?
super. No, I
Oh.
just know that one's one I do want to watch. I just know that one is real long.
Yeah, it's well, it's like a stage play, with the way that it's formatted. So you might like that. But video games, I just bought Doom for the PS4, so I can finally play it.
Yeah, you should do that, homie.
I got Far Cry 4, which I've played a billion times, but I at least have it now on PS4 instead of on 360. And then I got Dead Rising, which is a classic that they remastered for the PS4.
Oh, gotcha.
So, and I'm still playing Red Dead 2. So,
No games, but just this weekend or maybe Tuesday, I grabbed some model kits that I was putting together. One was just this big ass hover tank
okay.
that it was actually bigger than I thought it was going to be, and I think I must have put it together pretty jankily.
Okay.
Because there are a whole bunch of holes in it and stuff.
Oh, God.
So I got that guy, right? And then I got another thing. There's this Star Wars war game that's the same sort of scale, but it's like realistically scaled too. A lot of those games, they don't scale the miniatures accurately, so you'll have like
Where like the dudes, should be like a certain size to the tank, but in reality they're taller than the tank. Okay, yeah, I gotcha.
But this one, it's realistically sized, and I got this ATST that's like it's pretty tall.
Okay.
And stuff that are comparable to like at least height of it are like $100, and that one was only like 50 or something.
Oh wow.
But point is, I got the bunker from Endor, and what I thought it was really cool just because it was pretty much just a play set, like if you were a kid, honestly. And like you can open it up and then have your miniatures go around. So that was cool. That's what I've been working on.
So do you build them, or are they already like pre-built? I know I've already asked this. I'm a noob with this kind of stuff.
This company, Fantasy Flight Games, with this game, they are less posable and customizable than the stuff that Games Workshop does, but you still gotta put them together.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm terrible with models because I have these big sausage fingers, so I just kind of like tend to just crush things.
Oh yeah, I mean I get all drenched in the glue too, so.
So no new games though besides that?
No, not really.
All right, so I feel like that wraps it up. Next episode we're talking about
Dreams
we're talking about. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys later.
See ya.
Peace to the Middle East. Peace to the Middle East. Peace to the Middle East.